The Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Planted with Sara Payan. I'm Sara Payan, your host, and today we have author, filmmaker, advocate, and entrepreneur JM Balbuena on the show. She is the author of the Successful Canna-preneur, and she has a very fascinating story. So I'm really excited to dig into this and just share her experiences. So JM, thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome.
Thank you. I'm very excited for this conversation. Thank you so much for having me.
So my very first question, tell us about your first cannabis experience.
My very first cannabis experience was on my 18th birthday, actually. I was in college and my sister's boyfriend gave me 4 blunts for my birthday. And so I had never consumed, and I definitely shared the 4 blunts at a party on a weekend. That was definitely my first exposure to it. And it to be honest with you, it wasn't like that revolutionary. I feel like when I then became aware of cannabis as medicine, I felt like that was more impactful. And that was when I got out of the military. So in college, I wasn't necessarily like an avid consumer or anything like that. That was a gift that I was given. So I, enjoyed it with other people. But after the military, that's when I actually, got in touch with what the plant was and what, the benefits were or continue to be. And then that exposure definitely got me hooked.
Well, that was a generous gift. I totally understand where you're coming from, because for myself too, I enjoyed it, cannabis occasionally, but it was when I had cancer and I used it medicinally where it's impactful. And I feel like those of us who do a lot of advocacy work, it is that moment where you're like, wow, this is more than a high. This is helping me not have to use other pharmaceuticals. It's enriching my life. And that's when you get that passionate ding, ding, ding moment where you're like, I want to be a part of this.
Exactly. That, in that moment, because I was dealing with, lack of sleep and dealing with some PTSD issues, and cannabis, just like that day where I consumed it and I was able to sleep, it just changed my whole perspective, and it just opened up, this new opportunity to seek information, to inform myself about what am I consuming and why is it illegal, and why is it helping me. And before, every information that I had before that was just that it was the gateway drug, and after you do that, you're gonna do all these other things, and that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
And so
well, and I'm wondering too, because I know for me, I knew that I'd heard people talk about medicinal value, but when I started using it to help with pain and helping getting me eating again, it wasn't something that I didn't come to it on my own. I had to have somebody give me the idea, which just sounds funny now, because for people like you and I, now we automatically understand this now. But at the time, somebody had a medical card and was like, hey, Sara, I would like to give you some to try to see if this will help, because it was actually before I had my cancer diagnosis, when I was just getting sick every time I was eating. Did you make a conscious choice to use it during that time, or was it something that somebody recommended to you?
Well, so when somebody recommended it to me, I was actually speaking to him about the fact that I wasn't sleeping at night, and that at that point, it was for 3 years, I was having trouble sleeping. And so he was a veteran and he had just gotten out, and he's like, girl, you know what? Just smoke this joint with me. And I did, and immediately I just felt the relief, even the relief from the tension of having the lack of sleep, literally within the first few puffs. And then from there, because I was at night, once he left and I went to sleep, I slept like a baby for the first time in 3 years. And so in that moment, I started asking him questions, and he didn't really know anything about the medicinal value. So at that point, I kind of hit a brick wall with him because, he just consumed and he just knew it made him feel better. And that was the reason why he did. But then I happened to meet my business partner, and he had been in the space, growing cannabis since he was 18. And he introduced me to even other modalities like RSO or edibles and the dosing and things of that nature. And that's when I really started learning about the benefits, and then how, your consumption and what resonates with you, and then what is the actual medicinal dose, and just all that information. It was a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was looking at your bio, I noticed that you were born in the Dominican Republic. And for myself, like my dad came to this country in the late 60s from Iran. So there's that, I don't know for you, but I know for me, there was a certain amount of stigma around cannabis. And from your culture, where is cannabis seen? How is it held? And how did that play into your relationship with the plant?
In my culture, cannabis is a drug. It's a drug, and it's, a drug that I would say, quote unquote, low lives, or people that are bound to be not necessarily useful members in society, consume. And then my background too, I come from like a hardcore Christian family. And so anything that's not necessarily prescribed by a doctor, it's, a felony in their eyes. And even, at the beginning when I started my consumption journey, I pretty much also had to battle my own stigma of all of that indoctrination from the cultural side, the educational side, and what I thought that I knew that was ultimately misinformation. And thinking to myself, like, am I a drug user now? Like, and that's like at the beginning kind of situation. And then once you understand, the medicinal value that the plant has, and then understanding too that it's just a plant. Like, we're not talking about a chemical situation. Like, we're talking about a plant that grows from seed, and essentially you can then consume it in different ways. And once you make that connection, and then you're conscious about your consumption and why you're doing it, then it just throws that all away. And now you can focus on educating other people, because there's so much misinformation. I mean, there's over a century of misinformation, that even when as an entrepreneur or as a professional in this space, you're always going to have to battle that misconception that people have. And even in the business standpoint, some people may be thinking like, is it legal? Like, are you even doing legal? Is it legal where you're at? Like, are you doing criminal activities and things of that nature? So as a person in this space, you always have to be mindful that you will be always educating.
Yeah, I think that it's constant work, but it's also a beautiful thing because we're constantly learning. Like, there's always new things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's interesting to discuss the stigma, especially because a lot of it came from the United States. And and I was doing some research the other day. I just went into one of those holes of historical research with politics, and I was doing some reading about Prescott Bush, George Sr.'s father. And I was reading about, some of the parts of our history that we're not necessarily proud of, that we don't talk about, but seems like today we're kind of seeing a recurrence of, when I say that, about this move for powerful people in fascism and white supremacy. And I was reading about how Prescott Bush was working with a bunch of other wealthy white men to basically do a fascist overthrow of the government when FDR was president, because they did not believe in the New Deal and helping people and giving families a leg up in Social Security. And the funny thing is that it was a lot of the people who were involved in cannabis prohibition.
Oh, wow.
So it was like William Randolph Hearst and also the DuPonts. And it made me think about everything that was happening.
List as well?
No, but he was married. He was married to a DuPont, which is how that all came to be.
That makes a lot.
Thick as thieves, you know? And so it's just really interesting to think about the fact that there was this, it was an industrial component because it was competition, hemp was competition for what they were trying to do, but that racial component combined with their apparent love of fascism is a really interesting intersection.
It is, and I'm not surprised, because that's even in the 1920s, when the prohibition for cannabis began, that was the main, witch hunt that they were trying to do. They were pursuing mostly people of color. I mean, there's so much history about Anslinger pursuing like musicians and things like that that weren't doing anything necessarily criminal, but were, maybe consuming cannabis and things like that. And it's part of our history here in America.
Yeah, it is. And it's a sad thing that it's actually kept a lot of people from, something that can give them relief, especially when, we look at when, if we're born black or brown, we have to really be careful to toe the line, because statistically speaking, the targets are on our backs for incarceration.
Right. Yes, I agree with that. And even one of the major things that, going back to your question earlier about battling like the stigma with myself, it was that other thing that most of the people that I knew, like in high school, I knew people that got arrested for having cannabis in their locker. Like I knew people that got arrested for selling it, like in the corner, in a nearby city and things like that. And so just thinking back and how that was, I want to say, the exposure that I had growing up, you're thinking like, should I even be doing it? Like that kind of thing. And I think that's the story, or that's like the same, people of color where I come from, I believe that that's pretty much the disconnection there that we have. And it's due to the misinformation.
Yeah.
And the history of criminalization, because people that look like us, if you were consuming, so it didn't matter what if it was possession or actually selling it or growing it, you were going in the hole no matter what.
Right.
And for a long time.
Yeah, and as we know, that changes the whole game for not only the individual but generationally for families. It's just devastating.
Yeah, absolutely. When I first started out here in California, I mean, it was mostly white guys promoting and, even on their social media, consuming and showing like their grows and things like that. And no one of color dare do that. And it's because of that.
Yeah.
Even most recently, I would say now, I want to say in the last 2 years, you see more people of color being more open about their consumption. I had friends that actually pretty much did a coming out of the cannabis closet, like post and things like that. I want to say like 2019, 2018, that's when people started feeling a little bit more empowered. One's, especially here in California, once it went recreational statewide with the adult use, Prop 64, people felt a little bit more empowered in that sense. So
it's a beautiful thing to see. It's wonderful to see people feeling more free. It's also amazing to see more representation in the industry. I
abs-
I'm on the subcommittee for social equity for the state, and one of the things that's really heartbreaking is, as much as people want to come out and have successful businesses and create generational wealth, there's
mhm.
still a lot of interesting things happening that are making it, and I say interesting, I'm being generous, that are happening that are making it difficult for people to succeed. And that's, I kind of wanted to seg into your book, The Successful Canna-preneur, and talk some more about that and see, like, what was your thought around creating it? What's been the feedback? What would you suggest for people who are struggling with, reading your book and listening to your story and getting some information and inspiration?
Yeah, the book was just I wanted to paint like a real picture of what happens in the legal space and provide information for people to um, number one, see the industry for what it is, then be able to identify where they can fit in. I try to paint a picture of some opportunities that people may be overlooking because they might be just focused on getting a license. And ultimately, there's a chapter where I discuss the mindset that you have to be able to um, survive in the space without driving yourself, crazy to the bone. And so I try to approach it from the informational side, and then the philosophical side for success here in this space. And so it's essentially my story going from a patient, like we were talking earlier, to a professional and then an entrepreneur in the space. And the other part was like when I started writing a book, it wasn't this book. My editor pretty much told me, like, you should write about cannabis. And I was writing like a self-help book, how to use cannabis, not use cannabis, but like how to be 420 friendly to help yourself come out this to get out of your own way, but if you're suffering from like self-doubt or PTSD and things of that nature. So she said, you should write more about the business. Like, I feel like you've done a few things that people will be able to connect with. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't have that much experience. And then she said, well, you have more than a lot of people.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, well, um, all right, let me see if I got something. And I wrote that book in 3 months. And so,
Wow.
yeah, so the other thing that she brought up to my editor, so definitely shout out to her for bringing the idea is, there's probably like two, three books that have been written by a Black woman or an actual like Afro Latina. Like there are no books so in for that particular topic. And I was like, that's a good point. So she said, you have information, people that in your communities, like women, veteran, Latinas, Black, they will be able, that will resonate. And I think you should probably reroute the book towards that. And so I did, and here we are. And ultimately, with the information that I provided, my purpose for the industry itself was to with that information to attract like high quality investors, high quality professionals, high quality entrepreneurs that would want to be in this space and make it a sustainable cannabis industry, for years to come. And so that was it. So the Successful Canna-preneur is now available in Spanish too. So I thought it was really important to for me to also provide that access to information for my Spanish speaking community. my great aunt, she's the oldest person in my family. I gave her a copy of the book and she's told me like, what am I supposed to do with this? I don't speak English. And I was like, okay, I will make sure I have the translation. And so I did. And here we are.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I mean, it's that, education is all about not only informing, but people being able to relate, right? It's like
Right.
you don't take things in that don't resonate for you very
Mhm.
easily. That's wonderful. And you have a documentary as well, correct?
Yeah, so we've been filming for about a year now, and it's just same concept of the book. It's about entrepreneurship in this space. And just putting out the information from my point of view, from the point of view of my peers, of like what the industry looks like, what different verticals people are participating, what's working, what's not working, and then the outlook on the future of the industry and where we're going and how we're contributing to that. So my point with it is to highlight the people that are moving the needle forward.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
That's we need to see more of that. There's a lot of fun programming out there. There's a lot of misinformation, and we need more programming that's actually showing what's going on, because people have a very skewed view of
Right.
cannabis. And it always throws me when people still think that there's a green rush.
Well, I feel like the media, mainstream media really focuses on public companies and, and the data saying that how many billions of dollars are being made per year, and then sometimes even exacerbating those numbers. Or then you have the other side that they focus on, which is criminalization, or maybe like when there's a $1 billion cultivation found in the middle of LA, they exacerbate that and sensationalize that. And then focus on the fact that it was illegal and criminal activity and things of that nature. And so I do think that there is an opportunity there to provide media that's not that it's unbiased, talking about the good things, the bad things, and just everything in between.
Yeah. And then you round it out with the experiential education experience, the support experience with the Veterans Walk and Talk, which I just think is wonderful. It's amazing. And would you tell our listeners more about that?
Yeah, Veterans Walk and Talk is a nonprofit organization that facilitates access to plant medicine to veterans. I sit at the board of Veterans Walk and Talk, and I'm definitely honored to participate. They not only help veterans, even veteran supporters also get the benefit of the information, the resources, and ultimately the medicine. There's a lot of brands that participate, like with my dispensary, Jack's Cannabis. A couple of months ago, we took advantage of SB 34, which is a law here in California that allows you to donate medicine to medical patients. And so we partnered up with Veterans Walk and Talk to create an experience. We went hiking, um, came back to the dispensary. The veterans, got their medicine. Shout out to, all the brands that we carry that participated and in creating that experience and allowing, the veterans to have a chill day at the dispensary. We gave them a tour and everybody was fed and had a great time, but most importantly, the educational side of things where people learn about the products, learn about the modalities, like how they can take advantage of the medicine, and then obviously get it for free, which is something that like California law before prohibited, actually giving medicine away. And with SB 34, we have that opportunity to do it again because, as you know, like it's all the cannabis culture is based on compassion and community. And so once we went with Prop 64, that all went away because it was more focused on the recreational use or adult use. And so with SB 34, we're able to take that back and get back to focusing on the medicine and the patients that need it.
Yeah, that was a I felt like with 64, it was a slap in the face to the patients. Um, it was really I was running a compassion program at the time, and it was really heartbreaking to have to liquidate it and give everyone a big bag and be like, this is all that we can offer you for now, and I'll let you know when things change. I it's it just is. We've had some interesting turns in the industry where medicinal
Mhm.
patients have been pushed by the wayside, but it's I just am so grateful for colleagues like you and the other advocates that we know, and the companies that supported bringing it back, because people really needed it. And like as a veteran,
Mhm.
who was coping with PTSD, working with this nonprofit, how did that resonate for you and make you feel? And was it, how was that in part of your full circle process with everything that you're doing in this sphere?
You know, it's all about community. And so when I found out about Veterans Walk and Talk, I first followed them online once somebody introduced me, and then was looking at what they were doing and how and who was involved. And then, I just showed up to one of the hikes. So what they do is just we gather, and then we do, I would say, hiking therapy. We go hiking, or we go to the beach and do a cleanup, or a park and do a cleanup. And we do it as a community. And, before and after, there's, brands that donate product, and we use the medicine to do the physical work and to congregate essentially. And I thought that was a great concept. And most recently, it has evolved to include, having a list of resources, including like veteran families, and, the veteran and then their families or veteran supporters who can also access resources, and it just creates an even bigger community, because the veteran is super important, but the families of the veterans also have a unique experience, and then that is also open to them. So at first it was not a nonprofit. It was just a group that gathered. And now, it has evolved into an actual nonprofit that's has a board and everything, and does collaborative work with um, cannabis businesses that share the same mission. And, obviously me as a veteran and being a member of Veterans Walk and Talk, it's only natural for it to make that connection, and it's been great. So we're
That
super thankful on both sides.
that's awesome. It really shows that cannabis does a lot, but there's more to it than that. It's a tool amongst
Right.
many things in our toolkit, like to have a more um integrated approach, I guess. But
Hmm.
let's talk about your business and your entrepreneurial work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, tell me some more about how you started it up, what you're doing now, what you're excited about.
Well, I'm super excited about the latest initiative that my company, Prime Harvest, who's the holding company for Jack's Cannabis, the dispensary. We are expanding the brand, Jack's Cannabis, throughout the state of California. And so we created a campaign called Weed for the People, which essentially our company got qualified by the United States. Um, SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, to raise capital under what it's called Regulation A. It allows us to raise capital from accredited and non-accredited investors. And so with Weed for the People, we're democratizing access to investing in this space, and also access um, to cannabis by our expansion throughout the state of California. And so you can find more information at Weed for the People, Weed for the number four, for the people.com. And anyone can essentially join in and invest in our company. And right now we are pretty much doing our tour, giving people information in California about how they can invest, they can be a part of it. There's a lot of people that want to be a part of the industry that don't necessarily want to own a dispensary or operate some type of business. With Weed for the People, we give individuals an opportunity to own shares in a company that is expanding, a company that is women led, it's veteran led, and it's pretty much doing things creatively in the cannabis industry here in California to create, again, the theme, a sustainable cannabis space, a sustainable business model, and that's here to stay for a while. And so I'm excited about that. And so my company, Prime Harvest Inc., it's spearheading the Weed for the People, and we're taking cannabis matters into our own hands and doing things in a different way and creating, again, community behind it.
When you were saying that, I was thinking how wonderful it is that you're giving people opportunities to participate, because it is true, like running a plant touching business is incredibly hard. I have to give you so much credit for doing that, because talk about not being able to sleep at night, like everything that you have to dodge as an entrepreneur in this space, and just the things that you don't have to deal with in any other business. How do you do it?
Well, obviously, I don't do it by myself. I definitely have. I'm surrounded by people that have an experience in the space, like my business partner and the CEO of our company, Dwayne Alexander. He has 30 years of experience. He's been growing cannabis since he was 18. He came into the legal market here in California like 2009, 2010, and has been operating in that landscape since then. And so you can only imagine the plethora of information, and even with that experience, you are able to understand the state in the landscape, and then almost make predictions of how things are going to happen and unfold, and that gives you an edge. And so I believe that's one of the main reasons why our company has been able to operate the way it has. And in cannabis, I have the book, The Successful Canna-preneur. Literally, success is still being here.
Yeah.
Success is still, navigating the system, and still coming out on top, still, not folding and giving up, and still pushing through and coming up with creative ways to keep a company alive and thriving, even in the midst of an economic turmoil like we are, right now as a country and things like that, and even as an industry in California. And so having that, having other individuals in our company, obviously we have several women that sit at managerial positions. We have veterans at managerial positions, and I feel like that's our edge, our people. And so that's how we've been able to do it, essentially. So,
yeah, that's a really impactful sentence, because that's, I think, what a lot of people forget, but successful entrepreneurs know, is that you're only as strong as the people that you surround yourself with.
Absolutely. So we're very proud of everybody in our team, and what people bring to the table, and we have high expectations of everybody, and we try to deliver. Not nothing is really perfect, but the one thing that we do all share is our solutions-based mindset. You know, things sometimes don't go the way you want it, but we still got to deliver. We still got to make it happen, And that's, you know, a common theme in our team. So
Yeah, you definitely have to be nimble to succeed in this area. And you know, with everything that's been changing in California, throughout the nation, but you know, California, we've seen a lot of changes since the 215 days. And part of it, you know, is the quality of the cannabis. I feel like in a lot of ways we are living in this crazy land of mids. So I want to talk about BSW.
Got Shitty Weed for sure. You know, Boy Got Shitty Weed is definitely an advocacy lifestyle brand, and it's my creative expression. That's how I like to express my love for advocacy, but also like inform people in ways that are um, evolved, you know, than just giving you information by even either talking or just writing something beyond like the book. For instance, I tried to dig up information and then come up with like graphics that are captivating and collaborating with artists that can tell a story about what boycott shitty weed means, which it's not just about consumption, it's also about supporting, you know, um, supporting businesses that are doing things the right way with respect to how they grow their cannabis, or even with respect to how they treat their people, whether they support social equity, support veterans, support businesses. You know, you could have the best weed, but if you are not necessarily being true to the culture of cannabis, then that's shitty to me. And so with Boy Got Shitty Weed, I try to educate people with the different collections. So you can find the merch, so you can get familiar at bswnation.com. And our different collections are dedicated to speaking about different time periods in cannabis, and the good things and the bad things. You know, some of our graphics just showcase the villains in the story, and then some of them showcase the heroes. And that we definitely have a lot of heroes here in California. Jack Herr, which, by the way, I'm excited. Dan Herr, his son, he's a part of our documentary, and he has provided us with a lot of intel about his father, and you know, how he contributed to cannabis legalization here in California, and obviously in America and in the surrounding states that have already touched on that. So, um, you know, that's my Boy Got Shitty Weed is my little baby for
I
advocacy.
I love that. And Dan is a great guy. I really, every time I talk to him, he's just such a positive force. I
Yeah.
really enjoy him.
Yes, absolutely. He's a great guy, definitely staying true to the legacy that his father has left with respect to, you know, just advocating for the plant and for the patient. So we're
Hmm.
excited to collaborate with him.
Boycott Shitty Weed is such a great project. It's when I
Thank you.
oh yeah, well it really embodies we before 64, and we do now, but we have a lot of work to do. But I really looked at our industry as a model for doing business differently, like really looking at the social justice aspect. And
We have a unique opportunity with that, I think. And sometimes I feel like people shy away from it for some reason, and we should be focused on that. Because I don't think many industries have that opportunity to, you know, create this like social justice component, sustainability, you know, for the environment component, and then wellness for the people. And then even add the layer of financial legacies that can be created. So, um, we have a unique opportunity with you know, within the cannabis industry to touch up on all those points that it's truly wholesome in my opinion, and that's why I'm very passionate about it. That's why, you know, I'll do anything that we have to do in my business with my team, we're all very conscious of that. And so you need people like that in your teams to be able to navigate the dynamic space that the cannabis industry is, and then remain here. It
Yeah.
has to, the bigger picture has to play that part. So you maintain.
It does. It does. And I think that we have a unique opportunity to create a model for conscious, sustainable capitalism. People can create
Right.
abundance for themselves and generational wealth for their families that actually extends beyond the nucleus of their lives.
I agree.
So we talked a little bit about Dan, but when you look at like people who have influenced you that you're inspired by, who are some other people that you'd suggest people read about or learn more about to just get that juicy inspiration for the work?
Absolutely. So, I would say my business partner, Dwayne, definitely has inspired me. Everything that I have learned in this space with respect to business, it started with him. He planted the seed. And so I'm excited for people to get to know his work as I have known for the past few years. But other people in this space that have been doing things, dead or alive.
Either.
Yeah. Well, obviously, so I'll tell you, my Rushmore in cannabis would be Jack Herrer, Dennis Barone, Bob Marley, and Brownie Mary. Uh, I would put those guys up there. Who is there anybody else? And none of those people are alive. So, but still to date here, I would say there's a few women in the space that are killing it. For my local women, I will say the Patty Rowe from the Pink Sash. She has been holding down the women's community for years now, not only building a brand, but building a brand that creates a space for women of all aspects of cannabis, whether you are a consumer, a mom, or just somebody that needs community. She has definitely done that, and on some real shit. Like, I have called her, dealing with some women's issues, and she delivers. I put it that way. Another person that I definitely admire is Adelia Carrillo.
Oh yeah.
She's the CMO at Event High, another like just stand-up individual. Definitely has created with the Blunt Brunch community for women, with Event High, just the community of organizers and catering to that, and just she's a workhorse. Absolutely. Um, then too, Zoe Wilder, she's definitely getting people in the space um, to get their word out with their communications and the things that they're doing. And she does it, the best in the business, in my opinion. So
And she does
women
it with a
definitely.
lot of class too.
Absolutely. And super creative too. So, and I definitely admire that. Susie Placencia from UMO, Moda Glass. She's also another person that's out here hustling, doing things creatively, managing, this brand and putting it on the map pretty much. Um, I would say obviously she has a team, but on her own accord, you see her going places, meeting people, promoting the brand, creating the brand in itself, and it's an amazing thing to see. I really admire her.
Yeah,
And
that's a
yeah,
strong roster of women.
yeah, seriously. And then add the Latinas in cannabis. These women not only are doing their thing, but they're also empowering women to do other things, and it's lovely. I'm very proud to know them and to have done work with each one of them as well.
Well, we're talking about empowerment and inspiration for people who want to follow you and see what you and your companies are doing. How should they do that?
Definitely check out weedforthepeople.com. That's weed, the number 4, people.com, to find out how you can be a part of our business if that's your interest. You can buy my book on Amazon and hit me up in the DMs if you want a signed copy. Underscore at underscore JM Balbuena, and the successfulcanna-preneur.com. If you're in San Diego or if you're in Southern California, Jack's Cannabis will deliver. So hit us up. And Prime Harvest Inc. is my company. I'm a CMO there. But definitely, if you're in San Diego, hit me up.
Thank you so much, Jam, for meeting with me today and being on the podcast. It's been a delight, and I always learn so much every time that I talk to a strong woman in our community who's making it happen. So I want to just thank you for all your work and applaud you for all your successes, because it's a hard time to be making it happen, and you're doing it.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. The conversation was awesome, and I can't wait to do it again. And thank you, for saying all those nice things. I'm just doing my job.
Well, you're doing it well. You're killing it. And really, I'm looking forward to our future conversations.
Likewise. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And everyone, remember, Planted is twice a month. And if you like listening, please give us a review, share it with a friend. Let us know what your favorite episodes are. And if you'd like to stay in touch over social media, we are Planted with Sara Pion on Facebook and Planted with Sara on Instagram and Twitter. You can also go to our website, www.plantedwithsara.com, or listen to us on our parent network, Radio Misfits Network, where there are other great podcasts, like one of my favorites, the Winemakers Podcast. So check it out. You can listen to Planted wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, whether that's Pandora, Spotify, Amazon, Google, Apple, Stitcher, TuneIn. We are there. So join us, and until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, it's a wild world out there. Be good to one another. Until next time, take care.